My name is Margaret, and I'm 63 years old now. Some stories stay with you forever, carved into your memory like names on old tree bark. This is one of those stories about my daughter Claire, her husband Daniel, and the terrible wish that came true. Claire was always headstrong. She inherited that from me, I suppose. When she married Daniel 15 years ago, I saw something special in him, a gentle steadiness that I hoped would balance her restless spirit. Daniel was the kind of man who wore flannel shirts and worked with his hands. He fixed things, not just broken faucets and squeaky doors, but broken moments too. He'd bring Claire coffee when she was stressed. He'd listen without interrupting. He was patient in a world that had forgotten patience. But somewhere along the way, Claire stopped seeing him. It started small. She'd sigh when he walked into a room. She'd scroll through her phone instead of answering his questions. Then came the complaints. He chewed too loudly. He wore the same old clothes. He didn't excite her anymore. I watched this man slowly become invisible in his own home. I remember the day she said it. We were having lunch at that little cafe Tilde copyright downtown, the one with the checkered tablecloths. Claire was stirring her coffee, around and around, staring at nothing. "Mom," she said quietly, "his presence irritates me. Everything about him, the way he breathes, the way he tries so hard. I wish a broken bar. I wish he would just disappear forever." My heart sank. I put down my sandwich and looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. There was something cold there I didn't recognize. "Claire, honey, that's a terrible thing to say. Daniel loves you." She waved her hand dismissively. "Love isn't enough, Mom. I feel trapped. I need space. I need a broken bar more." I should have said something stronger. I should have reminded her about commitment, about the vows she took, but I didn't. I let the moment pass, hoping it was just a phase. 2 weeks later, Daniel disappeared. Not mysteriously, not dramatically. He simply left. He packed a small bag while Claire was at work, wrote a short note, and walked out of their life. The note said, "You wished for me to disappear. I'm granting that wish. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. I'll always love you." Daniel. Claire found the note that evening. She called me, and for the first time in months, I heard real emotion in her voice. Not relief, not satisfaction. Fear. "Mom, he's gone. Daniel's really gone." The weeks that followed were strange. Claire threw herself into everything she thought she wanted. She went out with friends. She joined a gym. She even started seeing someone new, a flashy man named Marcus who drove a sports car and talked about stocks and vacations. But I watched her, and I saw the truth she wasn't ready to admit. She'd look at Daniel's old flannel shirt still hanging in the closet. She'd pause at the hardware store where he used to buy supplies. She'd reach for her phone to text him about something small, then remember he was gone. Marcus didn't last 3 months. He was exciting, sure, but when Claire's car broke down at midnight, Marcus told her to call a tow truck. When she had a bad day at work, Marcus suggested she handle her stress better. When she got the flu, Marcus kept his distance because he had a golf tournament that weekend. Daniel would have brought her soup. Daniel would have sat with her. Daniel would have cancelled everything. 6 months after Daniel left, Claire showed up at my door at 2 in the morning. She was crying, really crying in a way I hadn't seen since she was a little girl. "I ruined everything, Mom. I had someone who loved me completely, and I threw it away because I was bored, because I was stupid, because I didn't appreciate what I had until it was gone." I held her while she sobbed. Sometimes we don't see the treasure we're holding until we drop it and it shatters. "Where is he now?" she asked between tears. "I don't know, sweetheart." He didn't tell anyone. But that wasn't entirely true. Daniel had called me once, about a month after he left. He was in Montana, working on a ranch. He sounded tired but peaceful. "How is she?" he'd asked. Confused, I told him honestly, starting to realize what she lost. There was a long pause. "Margaret, I loved her with everything I had. But you can't make someone see your worth. You can't force someone to choose you. I spent years trying to be enough, and it was killing me. Sometimes disappearing is the kindest thing you can do for both people." His words carried a wisdom born from pain. I thought about my own marriage then. My late husband Robert. He'd been gone for 5 years by that point, and I missed him every single day. Robert was a lot like Daniela, steady, reliable, present. And I'll be honest with you, there were times during our 40 years together when I took him for granted too. When I focused on what he wasn't instead of cherishing what he was. I remember one particular argument we had, maybe 20 years into our marriage. I'd been complaining that he never surprised me anymore, that our life had become too predictable. Robert had looked at me with such sadness and said, "Margaret, I show up every day. I choose you every morning. Isn't that the greatest surprise of all of that? After all these years, I still want to be here." I didn't understand it then. Not really. But after he died, after I spent night after night in an empty bed, reaching for someone who wasn't there, then I understood. Consistency isn't boring. It's sacred. It's rare. I shared this with Claire during one of our many talks that difficult year. She listened carefully, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long gone cold. "Did you ever tell Dad you were sorry?" she asked quietly. "Every day after he was gone," I said. "But Claire, the tragedy is that I should have told him while he was still here, while it still mattered." That seemed to break something open in her. She started writing letters to Daniel, even though she had nowhere to send them. Pages and pages of apologies, memories, realizations. She kept them in a box under her bed. Claire spent the next year trying to find him. She hired a private investigator. She called old friends. She wrote letters to his last known address. Nothing. Daniel had truly disappeared, just as she'd wished. During that year, I watched my daughter transform. She became softer, more thoughtful. She volunteered at a shelter, helping people who'd lost everything. She started appreciating the small kindnesses people showed her. She learned what Daniel had always known, that love is in the quiet moments, the steady presence, the showing up even when it's not exciting. She also started noticing other people's relationships. She'd see couples at restaurants, and she could tell which ones were truly connected and which ones were just going through the motions. She became the friend who encouraged others to appreciate their partners, to say the thank yous and I love yous before it was too late. I remember one evening, we were sitting on my porch watching the sunset. Claire had just come from the shelter where she volunteered. She'd been helping a woman named Rosa whose husband had walked out after 30 years of marriage. Rosa said something today that really stuck with me. Claire said, her voice thoughtful. She said her husband left because he got tired of being treated like furniture, always there, never noticed, only acknowledged when something was wrong. She paused, watching a bird land on the railing. "That's exactly what I did to Daniel, wasn't it? He was my furniture, always there, so I stopped seeing him." "Yes," I said gently. "But you see it now. That's something." "Is it enough though, Mom? Is seeing your mistake enough if you can never fix it?" I didn't have an answer for that. Then, one autumn afternoon, Clara was at the grocery store. She was picking out apples when she heard a familiar voice. She turned, and there he was, Daniel, looking weathered and lean, holding a shopping basket. Their eyes met. Daniel didn't smile. He didn't rush to her. He simply nodded, a polite acknowledgement of someone he used to know. Claire told me later that her heart broke all over again in that moment, because she saw in his eyes what she'd done. He had moved on. He'd rebuilt himself into someone who no longer needed her approval to feel whole. "Daniel," she managed to say. "Yeah, broken bar. I'm so sorry for everything." He set down his basket. His flannel shirt was different now, a newer, but still the same style. "Still him." "I know you are, Claire. I forgave you a long time ago." "But forgiveness doesn't mean going back. Some doors close for a reason." "Is there any chance he a broken bar?" She couldn't finish the sentence. Daniel looked at her with kindness, the same kindness he'd always had. "You taught me an important lesson. You taught me that I deserve someone who sees me, who chooses me, not someone who wishes I disappear. I hope you find that too, as someone who makes you want to stay, not run away." Claire's voice shook when she asked, "Are you a broken bar? Are you happy now?" Daniel's expression softened just slightly. "I'm at peace. I wake up every morning without that knot in my stomach, wondering if today's the day I'll finally be enough. That's worth more than you know." "I have letters," Claire blurted out, "dozens of them. Things I needed to say, things I finally understand. Would you a broken bar? Would you read them?" Daniel was quiet for a long moment. People moved around them, pushing carts, comparing prices, living their ordinary lives. "Claire, I don't think that would help either of us. You wrote those letters for you, not for me, and that's okay, but I've moved forward. I need you to respect that." He picked up his basket and walked away. Claire stood there among the apples and the everyday shoppers, understanding finally what it means to lose someone irreplaceable. That evening, Claire came to my house. She brought the box of letters with her. We built a fire in the backyard fire pit, something Robert had built years ago, and one by one, she burned them, not out of anger, but as a release, letting go. "He was right," she said, watching the pages curl and blacken. "I wrote them for me. I was still making it about what I needed, even in my apology." "That's a hard truth to face," I said. "Everything worth learning is hard, isn't it, Mom?" "She never remarried. She tells me she doesn't need to. She learned her lesson the hard way, that love isn't about excitement or perfection. It's about presence, about choosing someone every day, even when it's ordinary, especially when it's ordinary." Daniel, I heard he eventually remarried, a kind woman who runs a bookstore in Montana, someone who appreciates quiet strength. I'm happy for him. He deserves to be chosen. As for Claire, she's different now, better. She tells younger women she works with to appreciate the good men in their lives, to see the love that shows up in flannel shirts and patient listening, to understand that sometimes the most precious things are the ones we take for granted. 3 years after that encounter at the grocery store, Claire adopted a rescue dog, an older golden retriever named Buddy, who'd been abandoned by his previous family. She told me it was fitting. Buddy needed someone to see him, she explained, to choose him even though he's not a puppy anymore, even though he's not perfect. I understand what that feels like now when needing to be seen. I'm proud of the woman she's become, even if it took losing everything to get there. She lives alone but not lonely. She fills her life with purpose and kindness. She shows up for people. Last week, she told me something that made my heart both ache and swell with pride. "Mom, I finally understand what you meant about Dad, about showing up being the greatest surprise. I spent so much time looking for lightning when I had steady sunlight right beside me. I wish I could tell Daniel that I finally get it, but maybe the point isn't telling him. Maybe the point is becoming someone who would never make that mistake again." Some wishes, you see, come true. And sometimes that's exactly what we need, even when it breaks us, to finally learn what really matters. The greatest revenge isn't cruelty, it's living well, it's finding peace, it's refusing to let someone's rejection define your worth. Daniel got his revenge not through anger, but through healing, through choosing himself the way Claire never chose him. And maybe that's the real ending, and not reconciliation, but transformation. Two people learning to be whole on their own, carrying the scars and wisdom that only heartbreak can teach. I look at Claire now, and I see someone who understands the weight of her words, the power of presence, the value of constancy. She became the person Daniel deserved, just too late for Daniel, but not too late for herself. And perhaps, in the end, that's the only person we can never truly save. A